Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. Today, we have an extremely special guest, one of my good friends, an amazing dancer, an even better friend, someone that I've gotten to share some of my craziest days and weeks of my life in New York City with. So please welcome Miss Madeline Benoit. Mrs. Madeline Benoit. My bad. You
You
are
are fine.
Mrs. now.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy how that happened.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations. I have not seen you since you got married. So
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
I know
How
it
has
feels like
that been?
eternity since it's happened because of
Right.
COVID and quarantine and everything, but it has only been, I guess, almost a year now at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. February 1st was an interesting time to start a new path in your life. That's for sure.
Absolutely. It was like COVID wasn't even quite on our minds yet. It was still like
Mhm.
something happening in China. And then a month and a couple days later, New York was in lockdown. So
Right. Uh, so experiencing the first like month and a half of being married in quarantine in New York City in a nice little one-bedroom apartment. How is that? Did
yeah,
you
it wasn't
get
as bad as I think people expected it to be because we'd also been living together beforehand, so we were used to each other and
Mhm.
we were newlyweds, so we like wanted to be around each other. So it wasn't bad at first. And luckily, Dylan went back to work pretty quickly
Mhm.
after quarantine began because he was an essential worker. And so we didn't have to deal with each other for too long before he had to go back.
That's good. That is good. So I normally like to start off the first appearance of somebody on the show with kind of your philosophical testimony and just how, not necessarily testimony in the way that you and I are used to hearing it, but just kind of maybe 3 or 4 people in your life that pushed you on the path towards starting the Wonder Project and doing this on your own.
Yeah, I always think family has the hugest impact on kind of at least who you start out as in your adult life. And my parents, luckily, I think it's hard enough to have a child that wants to pursue something that is kind of a one in a million chance endeavor, and
Yeah.
that was me. I wanted to be a dancer, and I had started dancing when I was pretty young. And pretty quickly, I wanted to move to New York at 19. So, luckily, I had the support of my parents, and I think that ultimately they have given me even just the courage and the tenacity to continue working towards my dream. And I mean, starting a business is very nerve-wracking, and it's tough to put yourself out there. And
Oh
so
yeah.
having that setup definitely made it just a little bit easier having that support system. I know not everyone has that, so I feel very grateful to both my parents
That's
and
awesome.
and also our industry. Truthfully, the whole community of our industry is just so wonderfully incredible. I think we're all dream chasers. And so being surrounded by that 24/7, going to auditions with these people, seeing how hard they work, how many new ideas they can come up with, especially during quarantine, that was a huge part of what made me decide to do the Wonder Project and to pursue through it because I was seeing so much inspiration around me.
Mhm.
And then, of course, my husband. I mean, he's there every single day and talks me through many, many breakdowns. So him being a support system, I think, yeah, the 3 mixtures mixed together between my parents and my husband and my community, it
Mm.
was like, I don't know, you kind of feel unstoppable and capable of anything at sometimes. And when that all mixes together very nicely, then suddenly you're like, "Oh, I just started a business, and now I guess I'm responsible for this audience of people that I'm chatting with." So
Yeah, so that's definitely something that I wanted to touch on. This kind of came that you blew up pretty quickly. You were just kind of doing a couple of fun videos on YouTube, and then it was a thing within a few months. How did that kind of pop off so quickly?
it was really crazy. Honestly, I was so nervous at first to even start it. Hence why I made a separate Instagram account because I didn't wanna bug my friends. I was like, "My friends are gonna hate me." I had so much imposter syndrome about, like, even putting my opinions out there,
Mm.
and yeah, it happened very quickly, and I think because I'm part of the dance community and I have already taught a lot of young artists throughout my career. Because once I started dancing professionally, I'd come back to Texas, my hometown, and teach at schools. So I kind of just started following people that I taught before, following some fellow artist friends, people that I thought might benefit from some of this information. And then the YouTube thing wasn't even supposed to really be a thing. I ultimately wanted to do in person because I was like, I'm too old to be on YouTube. But because of quarantine, it kind of pushed me out of my box a little bit. And so my first videos are absolutely tragic. But I ultimately just like was having fun, just being myself, doing my thing. And slowly but surely, I started to get some more followers and started to learn a little bit about how like the video editing process worked. And then my biggest push for my audience was when I came to Texas and went around to schools. And that happened so quickly because you're teaching groups of 60. So even if you have, 10 people follow you from that school, it like starts to build really quickly. And the imposter syndrome builds even quicker because you're like, these people trust me and what I say. And so I had this very brief moment at the beginning of creating the Wonder Project where I was working with my friend who had started a business called like Mindset in the Making, and it's all about mindset. And so when I was feeling all that imposter syndrome at the beginning, I realized like how much of a detriment it actually was to my business. And so she was really helping me work through that and realize how valid my opinions are and how much I truly have to offer, because I kept feeling like because I wasn't on Broadway, people wouldn't trust me or think that I was worth their time, right? Because that's like the ultimate goal for a lot of people is Broadway. So they're like, this girl hasn't even done that. So how can I, that's what I kept imagining my audience was thinking. And so after I worked through that with her over the course of a couple of weeks and started realizing that I was capable of doing this and I had something really important to say, I think the audience just felt that switch of like, oh, this girl seems confident now. And that like draws a lot of people in. So yeah, it happened quickly and it's been very fun, but it definitely was a little bit of a bumpier start.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with both the struggle of video editing, because that sucks and I hate it with a burning passion. My two worst skills in life that I've had to do are video editing and web design. And I spent the
Same.
majority of quarantine doing both of those things. And launching this YouTube channel and the site and the movement behind it was like just so many meticulous hours of like drag and dropping and like moving little lines, little places, and I hope
Yeah.
I never have to do it again.
It's so overwhelming and you feel like everyone knows how to do it except for you.
Right.
And it's truthfully, my dad was like, just do it and then fix it as you go. And that's been the journey is like, I put out my first videos. They look horrible. Like the quality is bad and I was like doing it by the window to get good lighting. And I had like a super old Mac from 2012. I was using iMovie and everything. And then you just realize like over time, you just get better at the little things and then it adds up to like a way better product.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting. I was watching you take off, and then shortly after you started, my good friend Reed started a fairly similar show to what I've been doing, a little bit shorter form interviews usually, but still just random politicians and people and activists and stuff like that. And he was kind of in the same mindset of let's just make some stuff, and I'll get better as I go along. And we were on each other's shows quite a bit in the beginning, and he was constantly making references to how much more work I was putting into like video quality and stuff like that. But his videos were getting 10 to 20 times the views as mine consistently. Like his channel has taken off. He's got a couple thousand followers on Twitter now, like I think about 1,500 subscribers on YouTube, like all in the last 9 months. And it's just, I think that mentality, I started out with a really perfectionist mentality of like, I have to make it perfect. I want it to look like The Daily Show or
Yeah.
Hassan Minaj's The Patriot Act. and I wanted it to be awesome with all these graphics, and I don't have that quality. So I
Mhm.
definitely could identify with the imposter syndrome that you were talking about too. Like,
Mhm.
I've never won, I've never ran a like full campaign myself. I've never, been something crazy, awesome, successful. I'm just here kind of talking to people and talking about my ideas. Who wants to hear that? I can't even do the graphics right, let alone like
Exactly.
message. But people have proven me wrong. And I think
Yeah.
they proved you wrong too. People
And
care
yeah,
about
it's
what we
also
have to
easy
say.
to think that the market is saturated
Hmm.
because pretty much every market is saturated at this point. Let's be real, like a brand new unique idea is hard to find.
Right.
And so one of like the other huge things that I learned really early on is like to be able to find what makes you different and then really just bank on that. So
Hmm.
it's like, okay, what makes me different? Like looking because there's a million other, dancers that could talk about exactly what I'm talking about. There's so many
Hmm.
people in this industry alone. But like what is something that will draw people in about me? And then just keep like coming back to that over and over again. And for me, it's just like complete authenticity as much as I can, as much as I can give my audience, like authenticity about this industry and what it is and the struggles to get there.
Hmm.
And also just how late I started in the game, like truly training in dance, I think is unique, especially this day and age, people start so early. So like, yeah,
Right.
once you find that thing, you're like, this is me. If you like it, great. If you don't have to
Mhm.
follow me.
And I think being okay with that second piece is a big step towards doing something like that. It's like not everyone's gonna like the way that you talk. Some
Yeah.
people are gonna prefer a different YouTuber or a different podcast, or and you just kind of have to be okay with that and understand that there's what not 8 billion people in the world, and as long as you get some of them, you'll be fine.
Yeah, like I got my first on my old YouTube account, just my personal one. I
Hmm.
got my first troll situation where in a period of 3 weeks, I got 50,000 views on this random video, and because I'd gotten so many views, I got a lot of trolling comments, like 63 of them.
Wow.
And it was the first time that I had to look at what people thought about me and just be like, "You know what? Let them say what they wanna say." There was some I think I'm gonna do a video about it because I think it'll be entertaining, but it was people saying, like, "This girl's feet are so big, of course she can stand up," and all this like, all these just silly little comments.
Wow.
Gratefully, like, at this point in my career, I know I like feel pretty confident about my ability, but it was definitely interesting to read those and continue on my day and be like, okay, what these 63 people think about me is nothing compared to the followers that I have and the people
Hmm.
who look forward to my content. So
Right. If 50,000 people watched that and only 63 of them had something stupid to say, that's a pretty good ratio, I think.
no, actually, yeah, that's a really good point. I should
So I'm curious. I know that you started off in dance a little bit later, like you mentioned, but you've been going at it full steam pretty much the whole time. So I'm curious, at what point did it really click where you were like, this is it, this is what I was meant to be doing. Dance is my future.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a really dramatic story for that actually, David. I'm glad you asked.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I danced when I was super little, like really young,
Hmm.
and gave it up pretty swiftly. I don't think any 5-year-old can stand still in a ballet class. I just don't think it's possible. But
It's child abuse.
yeah, I did tap dance for a little while up until middle school, and then I kind of stopped. I didn't really do any dance until high school. And that's when I really started training in dance. I immediately loved it. I loved the challenge. I loved pushing myself. I loved the people that didn't think I was good enough because I liked to challenge that and prove them wrong. And so then, yeah, I did it all through high school, fell in love, auditioned for college dance teams. I didn't make the dance team that I really wanted to make going into college. And I fully thought I was going to give it up. It's like, I'll be a nurse. I don't know why a lot of dancers have the history of wanting to be a nurse, but I've heard that story now a couple times. And I was like, why is that the alternative? I don't know. Anyway, so I was like, I'll just go into nursing. I'll go to Arizona State University. I had my schedule, I had my roommate, everything. And then this dance team, I swear it fell into my lap. It was like I met 3 people that had all said that I should audition for this dance team in a very small town in East Texas. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. My parents were out of town and I said, Mom, I'm going to audition for this team. She was like, great. If you hate it, leave. If you love it, stay. And we'll just play by ear. So I ended up making the dance team and falling absolutely in love with this team in East Texas. I trained there for 2 years and I was still actually going to school for nursing as well. And it was my sophomore year, my final year at the school, because it was a junior college. I was only there for 2 years. So it was my final year at that school. I had signed up for my classes for the semester. I was in English or something, I don't know, some class. And it was very generic topic, whatever it was. And they had to fill out a little form that was like, what's your major? What's your name? What's your favorite? All this stuff. And they were having us go around and they were like reaching out to people like, okay, what's your major? And I was writing down my major and I was just sitting there and I was like, this does not describe who I am. Like being a nurse does not describe Madeline. If someone were to say Madeline's a nurse, that wouldn't tell you anything that you needed to know about me and who I am and what I'm passionate about. And so it was immediately after that class, I ran to the counselor's office and I was like, how do I graduate the quickest? Because I want to move to New York to dance. I want to just do this and see what happens. I met a mentor my second semester who gave me the idea about going to the program and everything, but it was really like spontaneous, but it kind of built up over time. Like it just felt like dance kept coming back into my life and feeling like the right thing. And I realized that there was nothing else in the world that I wanted to do. And if I didn't try it, then I'd be so disappointed in myself. So it really happened quite spontaneously. And then everything kind of fell into place moving to New York. So here I am 4.5 years later, and I still love New York and love dancing. So.
Yeah. And still somehow managed to bring Texas with you. That's the thing that amazes me about your life is somehow you're like, all right, screw Texas. I'm going to New York to be a dancer, and then still surrounded yourself with Texas the whole time.
Yes, there's a lot of Texans in New York, and they all find me. We all find each other. I'll be in audition. Someone mentions barbecue, and then you find all of the Texans in the corner talking about barbecue. Like it's happened to me multiple times, and I'm like, I love Texas. I'm like always gonna have a soft spot for them.
For sure. And you're currently in Texas, right?
I am. I had wanted to do a Wonder Project tour for my business and to teach at a bunch of schools and studios. And it just so happened that my sister was also going to have a baby and the holidays were around the same time. So I made a huge trip to Texas to first of all teach for a couple of weeks. So I taught for about 3 weeks at schools and studios, spent the holidays with my family. And now I'm currently in Texas awaiting the arrival of my nephew, which should be any hour now, I feel like.
Right. Congratulations on that. That is awesome.
I cannot wait.
That's
I can't wait.
First nephew is a fun time for sure.
It is, especially because
mine just turned 5.
Oh my goodness!
Oh wow, 7 kids. That's gonna be a lot of nieces and nephews eventually.
I know. So we're all excited for this first one, and then everyone's gonna have kids, and no one's gonna care anymore. By the time like my youngest sister has children, we're gonna be like, ugh, this again.
Everybody's gonna know the process. Everybody's like, there's gonna be no anticipation. Just her. She's the only one that's gonna be freaking out.
She's so sad, probably. But yeah, we're like really, really excited. There's so many of us to be excited for her. So.
So after that, when you headed back to the city?
I'm heading back to the city in a week from today, actually.
Nice.
I know. So then it'll be time.
We'll be getting there about the same time.
Oh, really? When are you coming back?
Probably next weekend. I'm going down to look at some apartments and possibly interview for some jobs, and like mid-February, beginning of February, probably be moving down there permanently, or not permanently, but for the year.
That's so exciting. Do you know where you want to live yet?
I'm definitely shooting for Brooklyn just because it's where I've lived for most of my time there. It's where the candidate that I'll be working for lives, and actually both of the candidates I'll be working for live in Brooklyn. So probably somewhere central Brooklyn, Flatbush area where I was. I like that area, but
Mhm.
who
And
knows?
rent
I
is
need
so
to find
cheap right
roommates, so it could be anywhere.
Yeah, that's true.
Also
The rent is
true.
so cheap. It's great, and it's such an easy, um, like, process now. I feel like moving and finding an
Mhm.
apartment used to be the worst, but now you're kinda, like, on top of it all. You're, like, can ask for things that you want.
Right. It's
Mhm.
a buyer's market, as they say.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to be back in the city. I haven't stepped foot in the city in it'll be about a year exactly when I get there. It
Wow.
was like mid January last time I was in the city. So it's been a long year and it kind of sucked. Just like
Yeah.
not getting to see anybody from church, anybody from the Libertarian Party, just like watching New York City go to shambles and then come back and just kind of seeing it on Instagram was very strange.
Yeah, and there was a weird, like, view of New York portrayed too, where everyone's like, I
Mhm,
mean, it definitely was dead for a moment, don't get me wrong, but it did come back to life, like, as swiftly as I feel like it got
mhm,
quiet, and so it's been an interesting scenario watching it go through such a unique phase because
mhm,
the special things about New York disappeared for a moment, so we were all kinda like, what are we supposed to do for the next couple of months until hopefully like we didn't even know if it was going to come back to what it used
mhm,
to be. But luckily, I feel like it has. I haven't been there obviously in like a month or so, but
mhm.
I have.
That's good. I was talking to some of the guys on New Year's Eve, and they seem to be in good spirits. Um,
That's good.
that it's always a good time playing online video games with the community group.
Oh, absolutely.
So one other thing that I wanted to touch on because it's always been something that I've been curious about just in the acting and dancing field. Um, and especially getting to know you and Dylan fairly well. Is it weird, especially as a newlywed, to dance or act or dress kind of some of the ways that you have to with other guys while you're performing?
Oh, that's such a good question, David. Um, it definitely is a unique experience. So let's see. My first contract was on a cruise ship.
Hmm.
And I was definitely, like, wearing, like, bikinis and a lot of, like, skimpier clothing, but my dance partner was gay, so it, like, shouldn't have been, like, an issue or anything, but Dylan and I had actually just started dating, like, right before I got on the ship, and so it was interesting to navigate that scenario and just be, like, constantly validating each other and, like, reminding each other of, like, what this industry is and that it's just like putting on a show, it's just like acting. Um, it is hard though. I mean, it is hard to watch, I'm sure, sometimes, but I think we're used to it at this point, definitely after being together for, 4 or so years. My second contract, I dressed up as, like, Frankenstein's nurse, and it was definitely a scandalous scenario. Um, but it was all in good fun, and it was just so silly. Like, I just
Hmm.
think you can't take it too seriously, and you also have to really trust your partner. Like, I trust Dylan so much, he trusts me, and we know that, like, some of these scenarios are inevitable.
Hmm.
And I had actually just auditioned for something that was a little bit more on the scandalous side as well. So it's just like being super upfront with your partner, constant communication about it, and just reminding people of who you are. I've definitely had people think that I am different than what I am based on the photos that I post or
Hmm.
the performances that I post, because I definitely train a lot in burlesque. But it's like it's just reminding people, yeah, this is a show. This is fun. This is silly. This
Right.
doesn't say anything about who I am. It's part of who I am. I love to dance and I love to perform, but what I do isn't like doesn't tell you everything you need to know about me. So it's keeping an open mind. So yeah, I've definitely had
Hmm.
people say things. My dad has watched a lot of these performances too, which is an interesting situation. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just silly. It's just fun. Like, you can't take yourself too seriously, and no one should take you too seriously either when you're running around in a nurse's costume doing a Halloween show about Frankenstein. Like, we all have to have a good sense of humor.
That's definitely fair.
Mhm.
I have always kind of uh putting myself in other people's shoes, I've always thought that I wouldn't be able to handle a relationship like that.
Mhm.
And one of my exes kind of toyed with the idea of modeling for a
Mhm.
period of time. She did like 2 shoots, hated it, was like, nope, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. I can't, like, it's just being told stand here, stand there. No.
Mhm.
Um, so that was great for me in the moment. I was like, okay, thank God I don't have to have that internal battle.
Yeah.
But I definitely think meeting Dylan and getting to know him and just getting to see your guys' relationship up close, I was like, I understood that, it's all about trust, which that relationship didn't have. So that's why
Mhm.
I would not have been okay with it if that ended up being her life and she was like out partying in clubs and modeling and all that stuff all the time. There was no trust there. So I would have
Mhm.
been freaking out. Um, but especially because Dylan's an even more like kind of chill and introverted dude than I am. So he's like, I definitely, if I was that quiet, would be like freaking out internally and getting to just get to know him and talk to him about it and understand that there's just a lot of trust there that's been
Yeah,
built
and
up
it
over
took a
a lot of
long
years.
yeah, it took a long time too. It's like at the beginning, I think it was definitely harder for both of us
Hmm.
because, like, we just didn't know each other that well, and so it was, like, learning to trust each other,
Hmm.
um, and I think the more that we've done this too, the more, um, we put boundaries up front and set expectations up front too. So it's like, I make sure to let him know, "Okay, this is the most that I'm comfortable with as far as, like, a contract goes. Is this something that you're also comfortable with?" Um, we talk about things before they even exist in our world. So I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, if I were to do this type of contract, how would you feel about it? And if it's like a definite no for him, then I won't even go to those types of auditions or something. Like we definitely talk about a lot. There's not much that he's like, no, I don't feel comfortable with. At this point, we're kind of like pretty fine with whatever, but it's just good to like talk about it because every relationship's different, every
Hmm.
person's different, and everyone has very different boundaries. So luckily, when I found him, he was already on board with me moving to New York. So I knew he was going to be a good one. I was like, oh, I feel like he might be the kind of person that might be able to handle something like this. And luckily, he's like one of the strongest people I've ever met. So I'm grateful.
That is great. Have you ever dated someone that was also in the industry and had to be on the other end of that?
Yes. I only did it for a while. It was I originally when you're in this industry, you think like, "Oh, it's good to be with someone that's also in this industry," because then
Hmm.
you have the same mentality. And so I dated a couple of people that were in shows with me or, were just in the same field as me. And ultimately, I think for me at least, it's a very challenging position to be in because I'm quite competitive. And so it's tough for me to be doing the exact same thing as someone else. And also, I think you tend to have a little bit less sympathy for each other, or at least that's what I've noticed, because you're going through the same challenges and each
Hmm.
person handles them differently. And so it would be challenging for me to be like, this is something really hard that I'm going through. And sometimes I wouldn't get that sympathy or that validation, which might have just been the person that I was with. I've also dated someone that I was playing opposite of in a show. Like we were love interests in the show, which everyone says don't do that because, well, I was in high school. So I like to say that I was young, but
It's okay in high school.
yeah, it was so easy because you're like, I love their character, but you don't actually know if you love them. So that's interesting. But yeah, so it's for me, it didn't work out. I do have friends that are in the same industry that can do it. Again, it's who you are and what your boundaries and what your expectations for a relationship are. I like that Dylan is separate from me. He gives me like a new perspective when I'm caught up in the industry or what I'm doing. He also gives me
Mhm.
like a very grounding sense because his world kind of is a little bit more structured than mine. So I like to have someone that's life is structured and then mine's a little bit off kilter.
Yeah. His life is literally building structures. So
Absolutely. He literally is structured. But yeah, so I like that. I like having someone that's a little
Mhm.
bit more grounded. It would definitely be challenging schedule wise, lifestyle wise, having two people that are running around the country doing different jobs.
Right. Yeah, I definitely, when I was younger, and by that I mean like a year ago, uh, didn't fully appreciate the opposites attract mentality. I thought that it was more about like you guys can disagree on some things, and the fun, playful like disagreements will like keep the relationship interesting or whatever. But I found that the fun little disagreements can be limited, and that's okay. But just different personality types, like an introvert and an
Mhm.
extrovert, work better together because two extroverts will tire each other out eventually.
Yes.
And
Yes.
two introverts will just like hide in two separate corners and never talk to each other.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely more, well, in different ways. I'm definitely more like naturally talkative, social, more so than Dylan is. But then he's also more adventurous in some ways than I am, just in the day-to-day life. So I definitely like the balance
Mhm.
where he can count on me to be like the social one if he needs, and then I can count on him to be the adventurous one when I need. So
That's
yeah,
good.
I think it's good. I like it. I never thought I would date someone that wasn't in my industry, and then I was like, "Oh, this is actually exactly what I." You never know what you need. There's like a
Mhm.
study that says that people on dating apps actually have no idea what they need. So when you put in your preferences, like you actually have no idea. Like people don't know
Right.
what's for them until it happens.
Hmm. Yeah, I've found that the person that you think would be perfect never is, and the
Mhm.
person that you're is in your head is like, oh, that would never be a thing. Like it ends up kind of being that person. Most of my good friends in high school and college, like freshman year of college, are currently married to their one female friend that is like a sister to them, and they would never even think about dating.
Yes, that's how it
Like
goes.
now they're all married.
That's how it goes. I really thought I was like, if someone would have told me that I would be married to someone in construction,
Hmm.
my probably immediate reaction when I was younger would be like, "That sounds boring." But it's actually way more exciting than I ever pictured, and it just teaches you, like,
Right,
oh, you have no idea.
right. I definitely learned some stuff when I was living with you guys and talking to Dylan about his day-to-day job. I was like, wait, you do what now?
I know. It's way more interesting than I would have ever imagined.
Right. Who knew construction was so much fun?
I know.
We libertarians get made fun of for hating roads, but Dylan gave me a new appreciation for building
Oh,
things.
good.
For sure.
I'm glad. That's what he's there for.
uh, so you've played and done quite a few different things across the spectrum. So I am curious, what role you played that has taught you the most about yourself.
Oh, myself? Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Um, I think so not only this role, but this experience, taught me the most about myself. So, I was in a couple episodes of the TV show The Marvelous Miss Maisel,
Right.
which was such an incredible experience that I never thought I would get the chance to do or the opportunity to do. Because I went to New York thinking there was only a couple of options for me as far as dancing, and never did I think TV would be one of them.
Hmm.
But this experience taught me the most about me and myself and who I am because of how I felt when I got the job. So I got the job and I was just over the moon excited. And then I showed up to rehearsals, nervous as heck. And I was with other people that I guess like I would consider like a little bit more experienced in my field than me. So it
Hmm.
was like I was working with people that were Radio City Rockettes and that were on Broadway shows currently,
Wow.
and suddenly felt like I do not belong here. I'm not capable of doing this job.
Hmm.
I don't know how I got here, but someone made a mistake. That kind of feeling. And and suddenly was questioning myself and all of my abilities, and which is so ridiculous because I was at the same audition as these people. I did the same dance as them. Obviously, someone saw my capabilities and my talent, and so it's just silly that we get in our heads that way.
Right.
But going throughout that contract and doing something that I had never done before, which is have cameras in my face and perform not only once, but hundreds of times in a day, because when you're performing in front of a live audience, you do it once, great. Whatever happened, happened. Everyone forgets it. When you're filming
Right.
for TV, it's like if you make a mistake, it's on camera. And also you have to do it perfectly countless times in a row. And so for me, it was such a big challenge mentally and physically and emotionally to continuously remind myself of what I'm capable of and push myself and know that I can do that. Even though I had never done this before, I was capable of doing it. And it was so out of my comfort zone and so good for me and reminded me that, hey, Madeline, you actually don't know everything about yourself. So don't limit yourself and don't put yourself down because at the end of the day, that's not going to do anything for you and it's not going to help you. So that contract for me, it was such a big turning point in how I saw myself and how much I believed in myself. So I credit that contract to a lot. And I was also at the perfect age for that. You know, I think I was 22, 23. And so I was starting to realize how my actions really had consequences on my life or had effect on them. So it was, yeah, for that contract was probably the perfect contract for me at the time.
That's awesome. That is such a great show. I
Yes.
finally actually watched it because of you
Oh,
during quarantine when I think it was season 3 came out. Everyone was talking about it, and I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll actually watch this show. Got my parents into it too. um,
so good.
I have not watched any of season 4 though, so I need to catch up because
Oh,
apparently there's
I don't think season 4's come out yet. I was in season
okay.
3, which I believe came out last December, maybe. Oh, is
Okay.
there another season? I don't think
I
so.
I think that there might be a new season that just
Ooh.
because some of the people I was staying with in Colorado were watching like new episodes. So
Oh, yeah, it's a
I,
great show. It's so quick-witted and
mhm,
fun, and yeah, it was a really fun show to be a part of, and there's so much female leadership both on stage, like in the cast and also in the crew,
mhm,
that it was just a great experience to be like in that space and watch them work because they're also magical. And also it's like based in the 50s, 60s. And so that whole set and the costumes and
right.
dialogue, like it's such a brilliant show. I would go back there a million times if I could.
Yeah, I've absolutely love shows that are based in that time, and that show specifically covers historical events that a lot of people don't know about, and like how comedy was being censored back then, and how they were able to break through. And comedians made a huge difference in the social movement in the '60s and '70s. Then I definitely don't think that they get nearly enough credit for it. And so
Yeah.
I loved watching, especially in the first couple of episodes, you see a comedian get arrested for telling the truth,
Yeah.
and it's something that now we say, oh, that like we've grown so much as a country, but yeah, like it's still something to be worried about when we start telling comedians what they can and can't say and start canceling people for different things.
Yeah.
It's worrisome, and I think that show kind of came out in a perfect moment to call back to memory what what we used to have and how much we've grown, and to not lose that progress for sure.
I think so too. I think it really came out at a perfect time, right before I feel like a lot of comedians were getting into themselves into trouble or getting in trouble for things they had said in the past.
Hmm.
And I think comedy's always been used as such a good outlet for issues that we're dealing with at the current time. And I think people are getting just like the slightest bit sensitive to a lot of those topics, and we're forgetting that comedy is itself a joke. And I
Right.
think a lot of comedians are joking about the fact that they're getting in trouble for telling jokes. They're like, guys, it's a joke. And
Right.
so I think it's good that people are being held accountable for things that they do and for things that they say, but I definitely think there's a line, and I think the line is comedy. I think they almost have a little bit more leverage to push the boundaries there a little bit. And
Right.
so I definitely agree that it came out at a perfect time, not only for comedy, but also for feminism
Hmm.
at the same time. So I think it was like the perfect social commentary.
For sure. It definitely portrays a very positive, strong, like female role, because it's very different than what people would consider to be like modern feminism. It still portrays a very classic good mom. She's a single mom, but she's still really good with her ex, and she's a good, like, upstanding person that I think it's a nice contrast to show that you can be a strong female person without having to also be something crazy political, and
Yeah.
you can just exist and be that strong woman without having to take on all of these other attributes that strong women have to be now, which
Yeah, you almost see, like, her struggle, which I like. It's
Mhm.
not like she's a '50s housewife and then suddenly she's this crazy, like, this feminist, like, in the streets picketing, like, all that kind of stuff. It's
Right.
really cool to see her have these internal battles of, like, "Oh, but I still wanna be this person that society is telling me to be, but I also have these certain feelings." So it's kinda cool watching her grow throughout the seasons and become, like, more of a feminist and kinda come into it while still, like, maintaining those, like, '50s values that they all had, you know?
Right. Right. And I definitely get into a trap myself as kind of a, conservative traditionalist person. I enjoy a lot of those traditional values that are kind of um, uncool now for a lot of
Mm,
people. And there's a lot of bad things that were going on back then, and the show very much highlights a lot of the just systemic sexism that has
yeah.
existed for literally ever. Um, but it definitely, like we're saying, it shows that you can still be that traditionalist. You can still have a good nuclear family and a strong, moral values, and uh, you know, believe that women should be treated the same as men, because that's a
Yeah,
pretty
and, like,
that should
have
be
a
a basic
career
idea.
and everything, and
Right.
I think it's great because feminism literally is just allowing women to have a choice in what they want in their life. So that can be one or it can be the other or it can be both things.
Mhm,
It can be traditionalist, it can be, like, a little bit more pushing those boundaries, it can be both, and that's what I think is so great is, like, you're getting to kind of watch different,
mhm.
like, projections of that in each of the characters in Maisel. Like,
Yeah.
different they're all at different stages of that.
Mhm. Yeah, I've definitely gotten to watch kind of this weird dichotomy firsthand with my sister's life. She's 29 now, married with 3 kids,
Mhm,
and she works and her husband stays home with the kids,
mhm.
um, and that is how it works in their family. But that's after years of kind of deciding and bickering and switching back and forth of which one's the one that's working, and sometimes they're both working,
Yeah.
but no matter what she was doing, she was getting shit on by somebody for the choices
Mhm.
that she made, because either she was not a good feminist and not a strong woman because she was staying home and letting her husband be the breadwinner,
Yeah,
or she was not being a good mother because she's out working and not spending time with her kids. And there's no winning in that.
absolutely.
Uh,
That's the tricky part right now, I think, is that we're not all on the same page about what women can or can't do, and I think that they should have the choice, and
right.
my mom was a stay-at-home mom, 7 children, like, absolutely born to do that, loved her life, like, has continues to love her life and the choice that she made, and she also worked for a while and works now that we're a little bit older, and I can respect that just as much as I can respect someone else's decision. Like, we have our community group leaders who have a similar situation to your sister where,
Right.
the husband stays home more with the kids and the wife works. I can
Mhm.
respect both situations, and I think hopefully the new generation coming up is starting to just hopefully be a little bit more sympathetic to everyone's choices and realize that no choice is easy. It's not
Right.
an easy choice to stay home with kids. It's not an easy choice to go to work and leave the kids at home, but
Mhm.
everyone's doing the best that they can and working as hard as they can for their life and for their children's life and their husbands and wives'
Mhm.
life. So,
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said we're not all on the same page of what women can and can't do. Because I think some people are on a page that it's up to them.
Yeah, right?
And it's
Like,
not.
no.
There's a huge difference between how you choose to live your life and how maybe you think life is could be better for someone, and how they actually should live their life. It's up to them. Giving constructive advice, saying, hey, I was a stay-at-home mom and it was the most rewarding thing in my life, and I would highly encourage you to try to fix your life in the way that you have the ability to do that. That's okay. Saying you're a terrible mom because you're not spending time with your kids, that's
Yeah.
not okay.
Where it comes from, like, is it from a place of love?
Mhm.
And it's just like, ultimately what I hope is that every woman feels like they know the opportunities that are available to them. Like, they know that they're not being pushed into one way or the other, that they, like, have the choice in what they want in their life and what they want for their life.
Mhm.
And, like, coming full circle, like, to the Wonder Project again too, it's like, my whole goal with this company is to give young artists the choice and say, this is possible for you if you want it. It's all about empowering. And that's what I think like feminism is too. It's like empowering women to know that they have a choice. And then like the Wonder Project is literally about like, okay, you also have the choice. If you want to do something that's quote unquote practical, that's fine. But this career opportunity also can be practical. So I'm just here giving you the options and letting you know what's available to you. And so that's how I think they kind of like coincide.
Right. I think that the channel is called Fight for Liberty. Most of the stuff that I talk about is about, freedom and liberty in some way. Um, and I think that people like myself, I'm definitely in a bubble of politics and an echo chamber, and we make the mistake of thinking that idea revolves around politics, and it doesn't
Mhm.
at all. And I'm trying to pivot my personal life direction into liberty and freedom everywhere in life, and that includes being okay with people's career choices and life choices, and being okay with how people feel about my career choices and life choices, and
Mhm.
extending what I talk about on a day-to-day basis about like drug policy and tax policy and stuff like that, of just live and let live, needs to also be in other areas of your life, and getting to do what you want to do and live a life of purpose, and help other people like you've been able to do,
Mhm.
I think is entirely living out that exact same life philosophy of freedom, and getting to
Mhm.
actually enjoy your life. I think everyone should be able to do that.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's tough because you don't have too much choice as far as like who your parents are, who your family is, what town you grew up in, all of those types of things. And so it's about as you get older, like opening yourself up to new perspectives. And yeah, it's hard because when you look at other people's lives, you want to say, oh, I feel a certain way about that, or maybe that's not what I would choose. But ultimately, everyone, if you just realize like everyone's trying to do their best, like they're doing their best with the situation that's given to them, with the perspective that they grew up with.
Hmm.
And just like allowing people to do what they want to do and try your best to love them and give them the support that they deserve and maybe a little bit of guidance along the way. But like you're never going to know what's best for them or what's going on in their head. So it's just
Right.
like reaching that and loving people and allowing them to be themselves.
Yeah, I think that there's no one size fits all solution to almost any problem that
Mhm.
exists. And once you realize that, and you mentioned everyone has their own perspective, and I think that was one of the biggest realizations I had this year. I traveling the country, getting to talk to hundreds of voters a day, is
Yeah.
like you said, where you grew up, who your parents are, how you were raised, has a huge impact on that.
Mhm.
And our job is not necessarily to teach people, but more just expose people to a different perspective. And I had a pastor on the show last week, and we were kind of talking about how people that are in an organized religion kind of have an advantage of this mindset of evangelism, and that you can't save anyone. it has to be a heart change of their own. They have to save themselves, and so we understand that there, and we need to kind of transfer that to the rest of life. We can't make someone do anything with their life. We have to expose them to a perspective that maybe what they were doing isn't right, and or best for them, and they might change. But we're never going to beat someone over the head into the correct diet or the correct job or the correct boyfriend. It's never going to work.
I hope we realize that a little bit quicker too, especially when it comes to social media and
Right.
commenting something hateful on someone's post or trying to push them into a corner or beat them over the head with your own ideas and objectives is not really going to get you anywhere. And
Right.
it just polarizes us more. So yes, I hope that transfers into lots of other areas of life.
Mhm.
But as long as we can start small and we start with people like us that hopefully have those objectives, then we'll reach a lot more people that way.
Amen.
Mhm.
So before we sign off, I want to give you a chance to explain to people watching that maybe haven't seen my other posts about your channel, what the Wonder Project is, what you're doing, and how people can get involved or help out.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes. So it's called the Wonder Project. And the reason that it's called the Wonder Project is because ultimately I wanted to just give people the tools that they needed to make it in this industry or pursue their dreams of performing. And we decided on the Wonder Project because I wanted to make it a little bit more broad. I didn't want to have the word dance in it or something like that. And so the reason it's called that, and my mom actually made up the name, is because I wanted to bring people from a state of wonder, like wondering about this industry, so curious, to realizing their wonder and what they're already capable of and what they can do. So the Wonder Project is all about empowering, giving people tools, giving people the choice of whether or not they want to pursue this as a career. And if they do, then I'm here to help them. So my Instagram is called NYC Wonder Project. And it does have a link tree on there that goes to everything, to my YouTube page, to my website, all that good stuff. But I am the Wonder Project on YouTube, not to be confused with the other Wonder Project that's New Zealand based, and it's all about building something. I think it's like engineering based. And my website is thewonderproject.net. So you can find me on there. It's just good, wholehearted stuff. Even if you don't want to be a dancer, if you just want to learn about New York, I have my apartment tours on there, fun New York, silly things. I'm just running around the city doing whatever. So yeah, definitely check it out. Enjoy it. I do one-on-one coaching. I teach master classes. I'm just here to help with whatever people need. I know how challenging it is when I first moved to New York, I was so stressed and overwhelmed. So I'm here to ease that and ease the minds of parents who might also be stressed about someone wanting to pursue this career, because I realize that is a real thing as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely can identify with the stress of moving to New York. That is a mind-boggling experience.
Yes.
But also as someone who has zero intention of ever dancing professionally, I can say that the content that you put out is still super awesome for just New Yorkers in general. The apartment tours were especially fun because, oh my gosh,
People are
New York
always
City. Right, and New York City apartment hunting is there should be more shows just dedicated to that because it's a fucking hilarious experience.
It's a unique thing. Fine. I mean, because you're just looking for something totally different than you would be in any other state or city. It's like there's
Right.
such a lower bar, but also a higher bar in weird small things, like how
Mhm.
close you are to a subway and things like
Right.
that. So yeah, it's unique. There should be more shows. HGTV, come on,
Right.
let's get like a New York apartment hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, I need there to be a deli within 600 feet of my entrance, but I'm completely okay with the stove and the toilet being in the same room. That's fine.
Yes.
Like
When I was looking for apartments like a while back before COVID hit, it was like, yeah, there was this shower in the kitchen and there was no sink, but it was like $3,000. And I was like, I'm so confused. And
What?
you need to have made like so much money per year. It was like something crazy. It was like 80, you needed to make $80,000 per year at least and I was like, to have a shower in the kitchen, I need to make that much money per year. That's silly.
If I'm making $80,000 a year, I will definitely not have a shower in my kitchen.
I know. I was like, what a weird situation. So yeah, New York living is odd. So if you want to watch my apartment tours, they're fun. Or how to operate the subway is another good one. That's a challenging situation as
Mhm.
well.
Oh my God. I love it when my parents visit the city because we've been going to the city like every other year for the majority of my childhood. And they've come to visit me twice now. My mom's come 3 times. They still do not understand the basic concepts of the metro system at all, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know how they set it up, but it is like very much like, and it goes straight and then it curves down into the lower Manhattan.
Yep.
It's just like doesn't make any sense.
Right. It's like you're gonna go to Brooklyn, except for you're gonna end up in Queens.
Yeah, you're like, how did I know I definitely got lost a couple of times when I first moved, and
Hmm.
it's just like repetition. I still
Yep.
don't understand some of the subway lines, but I'm doing my best.
Yep. I think the first Saturday that I worked was the biggest problem because everything changes and I didn't know that.
The
And
weekend train.
I fell asleep on my way to work and woke up in Brooklyn because the A train just skipped lower Manhattan and went over into Brooklyn and just didn't go anywhere as near my work. I woke up and I was like, these stops sound familiar. Oh, we
It's
must be going local. And then I made it about two-thirds of the way into Brooklyn. I was in like Bed-Stuy before I realized what was going on and got back on.
yeah. The first time that you accidentally take the express train when you meant to take the local train is just a
Mhm.
mind-boggling experience. You're like, "You're skipping all of my stops." And you're, like, trying not to panic out loud because you, like, just wanna be like, "I'm a New Yorker, I'm native here, I know what I'm doing." But you're,
Right.
like, slowly going past every single stop that you recognize.
Yes, definitely some interesting experiences in New York City. Can't
Yeah,
wait to go back.
me too, I'm so excited. I love it and hate it all at the same time.
Well, Madeline coming on the show. Yes, that is true. I think everyone has kind of a love-hate relationship with New York City.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your life experiences and your stories. Definitely have to have you on again sometime soon, and I can't wait to hang out with you. Hopefully in like 2 weeks.
Yes, hopefully soon. Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this is my first podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Wow. You should do it more often.
Yes. Branch
All
out
right,
a
guys.
little bit.
Yes, for sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next time on the Fight for Liberty show.